Welcome to another episode of Israel at War. I'm Phyllis Zimbler Miller, and today I have a very special guest with me, Joseph Gittler, who's going to tell you about his organization, Leket Israel. He's the founder and the chairman of this amazing project. It was amazing before October 7th, but we are going to talk about how the organization pivoted after October 7th. First, though, Joseph, tell us how this whole thing started.
Sure. And thank you, Phyllis, for having me on. And of course, let's start by saying that we hope for the very quick return of our hostages and soldiers in one piece of body and mind as soon as we can. Um, as you can hear, although I used to tell people I was Israeli to try to be a little bit off-putting, I'd say, don't I have a great accent for an Israeli? I grew up in New York, and I'm looking in your background, and I'm wondering if that's the famous New Yorker cartoon.
It is South Steinberg,
So-
yes.
Right. So I grew up in Manhattan, so I guess I fit in that bill. Although I think of myself as a little more a man of the world than just your typical New Yorker in the way they look at things. But I grew up in New York, and I came to Israel um, based on my education, based on my parents, based on my wife. Modern Orthodox Zionism. Although very few people, my father used to say, "Why did you drink the Kool-Aid and no one else does?" Meaning, we're educated this way, but why did you listen to that of all things? Because very few people actually do make it. But my wife and I were of the same mind, and whatever influences we had, they were effective. And here we are 24 years later. I came here as a lawyer. I went to work in high tech. I came with one daughter, Maytal, at 2, and 4 other kids were born in Israel. So we have 5 kids. Um, Leket really came about, I would say, for a couple of different reasons. Number one was, I came to Israel, and Israel, while today it's even a far more startup nation, it was already 24 years ago becoming wealthier, becoming more westernized. And when that happens, countries tend to start wasting more. Okay, so like when you've been to Israel and you go to a hotel and you say, what are they doing with all that food at breakfast? So it wasn't just tourists in hotels, it was events, and it was corporate events, and it was bar and bat mitzvahs, and it's a sign, it's a positive sign for a country when you start wasting. Poor countries, they may waste for other reasons, but they really can't afford to. And so that always bothered me. I grew up in the 1980s, with a mother who said, finish your plate. There's starving kids in Ethiopia. And of course, I was chutzpahdik, so I would say, well, if I don't finish my plate, how's that going to help the kids in Ethiopia? Like, they're not connected, but the point was being made, like, don't you dare waste food. And in general, that's the way I try to live my life. I don't like waste in general, just something that bothers me. So I saw Israel getting wealthier. I saw the waste. But on the other hand, oh, that's my dog. Sorry. Here, let your viewers get a look at him. He's a nice golden doodle. Goodbye, Loki. Hello. He'll probably be back because I'm his alpha male. I don't know. He literally walks by my side wherever I go.
Interesting.
I didn't want him, but I went along, and of course, that's my punishment. Besides walking him all the time as well. But it's good for me in this situation now. So I really just
So get to the food that these. Okay.
Yeah. So that was really, so you see the waste, and then you understand, like in all Western countries, there's a certain percent of the population that just hasn't kept up. They're not earning enough money, working poor, non-living wages, the same scourge that you see in almost all democracies. And so to me, I said, how could this be? First of all, you're the land of milk and honey, and we're the Jewish people, and we have a certain outlook on taking care of the poor. But yet there's another command, and we're not a religious organization, but it also in the Bible, it's in our heritage, bal tashchit, not wasting. And so I said, this is crazy. We got to put them together. And the biggest surprise was that in a land of so many nonprofits, so many people doing good, there really wasn't anyone who was just looking at, there's all this food waste. How do I get it? And how do I get it to the poor? And that's really the germination of Leket. And I took a 3-month sabbatical, which has turned into 24 years, and not 24, sorry, 21 years. I'm in Israel 24 years, and that's really what I've dedicated my life to, which is building a logistics operation which sources food, figures out the most efficient ways to get it, and then transports it to agencies that feed the poor, Jewish and non-Jewish, soup kitchens, homeless shelters, battered women's shelters, after-school clubs for kids, Holocaust survivors, you name it, all over the country. Okay, and we work very hard to take care of all communities. We try to give them the right food when it works in our logistics. So if I have schnitzel and I can give it to kids, great. And if I have food that's not kosher, so maybe I'll try to give it to people who don't care about kosher, etc. And that's really what we've been trying to build. And of course, I'll just give one or two examples. Post October 7th, everything's become
Yes.
that.
So what happened
Okay.
after October 7th?
So normally we get Leket focuses on healthy, nutritious food, meaning we skip the whole criminal conduct of food banks in the United States who take a lot of junk and give out a lot of junk. It's gotten better. We skip that. We just kind of jump past that. We only do fruits and vegetables and excess cooked meals. Okay, so we started off with me in my car picking up from weddings and bar and bat mitzvahs, and then we extended that to corporate cafeterias and army bases and hotels, etc. That was the first things what we did, and it grew and it grew and it grew. And then the other big part of what we do is we work with farmers. And Israel, this is one of the only benefits of Israel being small, is that we can work in the entire country. The weather's right. You have multiple growing cycles, a little bit like California. Okay, it's it's incredible for growing here. Israeli farmers are world class, but like every other business, they get stuck with crops. Some are because of our socialization, the way the crop should look. Some are damage, acts of God. Some are order cancellations, emergency situations. And so we built this whole workflow that works with farmers. We work with the insurance companies in order to make sure when these situations, special situations like in the finance world, that's us. We're all about special situations and making sure that this healthy food doesn't go to waste and it's big, meaning, last year, if the year had been normal, we were on pace to distribute 30,000 tons, about 70 million pounds of fruits and vegetables and about 3 million cooked meals. So you're talking serious numbers, one of the leading and biggest food agencies in the world. So then October 7th happens. And as you can imagine, it was almost like COVID right over again, just, I don't want to say worse maybe for the state of Israel because we did COVID right. Let's say unlike the United States where COVID was treated, in my opinion, as a bit of a joke or a license to kill. In Israel, about 12,000 people died. In America, the numbers talk about 1 million. So that don't work if you just do the statistics. Just like in COVID, everything dried up. So the same thing happened. We understood October 7th, Saturday night, we had a staff call and we understood all the hotels we get food from, the corporate cafeterias, everyone's going to be working from home. The army's about to go to war. They don't have the bandwidth for Leket trucks to be coming in and packing up food. It's going to be insane there. There's not going to be any events. I had a bar mitzvah 2 weeks later. Of course, my son still had his bar mitzvah, but it wasn't what it was supposed to be. And of course, besides just the impact on the economy, there's an impact on Leket. And the flip side was fruits and vegetables, and that really there was because of the damage, purposeful by missiles, and by the way, I don't know how much this has not been widely reported, but purposeful damage by the Hamas people who came over the border on October 7th with orders to destroy irrigation equipment, destroy tractors, trucks,
Yes,
combines.
this has not been reported a lot.
Right. Interestingly, the best article about it, which I laugh at, was in Mishpacha magazine, which is not something I normally read, which is more of a right-wing, ultra-Orthodox magazine, but they did an excellent job reporting it. So I got to give them kudos. It's like, I'm not going to name any names or no politics, but let's say there's a politician I don't love. If they do something good, you got to give them credit. Okay, so you can't always throw out the baby with the bathwater. That's the thing. They really reported it well, and so. And couple that together with the danger of volunteers going down there, the fact that 80% of the foreign workers and all the Palestinians left by choice or not by choice, farming crisis. So for the first month, there was basically nothing happening. And then, by the way, my son, who was in tanks, so of course, they needed to move their tanks. And so they caused tremendous damage also to farms because that's the best way for them to go. And so the damage in the South was unbelievable. And so we did and have been doing a whole host of things to help the situation till October 7th. So let me go back one step. For meals, we basically made the decision, okay, we're not waving the white flag. The poor that we serve need food. We're buying meals. And that's not in our normal wheelhouse. So we purchased about 2 million meals since we basically made up for all the meals we lost. Rescue Now, 9 months later, has gotten mostly back, okay, to normal, which of course that could change tomorrow. God knows what's going to be. You know, we're talking, we still haven't had the supposed,
Retaliation.
retaliation. So, I'm sitting in my son's bedroom in Ranana waiting. They're actually getting on a plane back now, my kids. So we'll see if they make it back or if they're flying. And then, and that made up for a lot of the lost meals, and it also gave business to caterers. Of course, it cost us 5 times as much, but we had special donations for that. Fundraising in those first few months was not an issue. It's gotten tougher now because it's like everything, as things drag on, it just gets harder to raise the funds. And in the beginning, we also gave out debit cards to thousands of displaced families, and we just did whatever we thought people needed. We did, whether it's something we normally do or not. With farmers, it's been much, much even larger than that. From debit cards to a grant fund, we've spent $4 million already on requests from farmers in the South. Together with the Strauss Corporation, they gave half the money. We raised half the money. We started 2 loan funds for farmers with the 2 big Israeli loan fund organizations, the Koret Fund and Ogen. We've given just cash debit grants to farmers. I think about 500 farmers at 5,000 shekels each. You start doing the math, you see we spent mega amounts of money, but we're not a hedge fund. Our job is to, if donors give us money for special situations, our job is to spend it, not to put it in the bank. And then the 2 biggest things I would say we've been doing. So once it became safe in the South to send volunteers, so we have been sending 50 to 75 buses a week that we pay for from different spots in the country with volunteers from Israel, from overseas, to go picket farmers. Okay. Now understand, normally, if Leket were to ever send a volunteer bus to a farmer, we take what we pick, because that's the whole point.
Right?
We're taking excess that you can't sell. Now, not only we're picking, we're paying for the buses, we're picking. Farmers are keeping everything, and we've told farmers, please try to sell it in the marketplace. But if you have trouble selling in the marketplace, we have raised money and are continuing. We need to raise about $5 million more for the next 6 months to buy, to make up for what we're not getting from our normal rescue activities. And so that's a mega project. We are doing it a little more in the north now, not the far north, just, wherever the army is comfortable letting us go, and sending buses and trying to buy where possible. The far north is much, much worse. That's what we call in Hebrew total loss. And the point is that that's simply right now just giving farmers money to show them that we care about them, so that they can keep their heads above water. Because I am concerned, I'm always concerned about food security in the short term, but now I'm also concerned about food security in the long term. Because if Israel has, I'm making up a number, 10,000 farmers, and half of them give up after this, we have a crisis. And unfortunately, our history, and I would say the way the world views us, often unfairly, I should say, of course. And I'm not a big, I'm not one of those people looking for anti-Semitism in every corner, but unfortunately, I think we've seen much more of it since, it's become more normalized. We have to be self-sufficient in Israel on food. We just have to be. We have no choice. The United States is not really worried that they're going to get bullied and they're not going to be able to feed their population. Things can happen. You could have terrible drought. You can have other issues. But Israel, literally, we need now. If that happens, it means we don't grow certain crops because they take up too much water, or we need to grow crops that give us better bang for the buck nutritionally. We'll do that. But too many farmers going out of business, you lose that expertise. And so we need to do what we can. We're not the only ones. There are other organizations. The Israeli government's doing what it can in a very difficult time. You have all the federations and philanthropists. There's tons going on, but like everything in life, it's never enough. And so we're pushing very, very hard in all our projects. We're talking to anyone we can who's willing to support us. And, I'm obviously very proud of our team. I'm more of the figurehead these days. Everything you said now, I might have some of the ideas, but I get all the credit, but I don't do any of the execution. It's a perfect, kind of a perfect existence. I talk to nice people like you. That's why I spend my time. And so, I, I, uh, sorry, I just got cut off there for a second. I just really give kudos to our team that's been working, sometimes 24/6, 24/7, for months on end, doing what they can with children at home and the nerves and children in the army, and it's an impossible situation here. And I, of course, do not know what the solution is. If I could just snap my fingers and make it go away, that's what I would do. But we'll continue, I would say, at Leckett to do what we can, because, of course, the people that we serve are in no better situation than they were before. Yes, some of them are staying in hotels at government expense. I promise you, after 9 months in a hotel without your own kitchen, you're going out of your freaking mind.
Yes.
Okay, so I will mention one thing that we did, which was not my idea, but a beautiful project, is every hotel that had displaced people, and that's slowly going down. Most of the people from the South are either in their own, like some of them have moved en masse to new communities until their houses are rebuilt, and others have gone back, like Sderot and Netivot. It's really the Be'eri and near Oz, the places that were heavily damaged, where people have not gone back so much. And of course, we have the people from the north. Again, some are in homes and they get money from the government to buy food, but if you're in hotels that don't have a kitchen. And so what we did is, it was in 20 hotels at the max. Now we're down to 10 hotels. We've set up mobile fruit and vegetable stands where people can just, so they have, because at the end of the day, even if don't have a kitchen, if you have a tomato and cucumbers, you can make your own little Israeli salad in the room, and you can cut up a fruit. And so that just gives you a little bit more sense of home.
Agency.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that people are poor. Okay, like Leckett, normally we're very focused on poverty. But sometimes we need to go a little bit left and a little bit right. And it's the same way we have paid pickers, and the best paid pickers would probably be, people of a certain age from certain countries who might do the most work. They're the hardest working, they're the most committed, they need it the most. But usually we hire different people to do that work because they need the work more. And so we get a little bit less, but we've done, a different type of mitzvah. We're not an employment agency, but yeah. So I like to look at us, and thank you for what you pointed out, because I really look at us as, Leckett in its depth is really a win-win-win-win-win. We have so many, from volunteerism to helping the poor to being good for the environment. We have these multiple win-wins.
Okay, so let's talk about how can the audience help you? Well, I'll include the link to your organization where you can
Thank you.
donate. When you go, I'll just tell Americans and other English speakers that when you go, just click from the Hebrew to the English if the Hebrew pops up first. So
Oh,
this,
we've been fighting that for years. Thank you for letting me know that. I'm going to tell them again in the office that it sometimes comes up in Hebrew. It's maddening.
okay, so that's what I
so-
wanted to warn people that there
Yeah,
is an English version.
Yeah, there's a very good English website with a lot of information. So look, it's really simple. The first thing is, if you're coming to Israel, get in touch with us. Either the email that's on the website, or there's a form, and you can volunteer in one of our farms, or work in our distribution center. We have about, I don't know, we'll probably have somewhere between 100 and 120,000 people this year who will come and do that type of work. It's physical work. But we have people who come for days on end. We have people who come for 2 hours, really whatever fits within your schedule. We just ask that when you come, you're there to work, not just to take selfies. Okay. That's volunteering. Outside of that, of course, we need financial support. We're a big organization. Okay. At this point, like, it's gone so beyond what I ever imagined. This was a lark. I was going to take 3 months off from the software business and then go back. It took off so quickly. I felt like I have to see where it goes. And here we are talking now 21 years later. So it's become a big organization, but people appreciate the bang for the buck, because for every dollar we spend at Leckett, historically, with our normal activities, I'm not talking about war activities, normal activities, we bring in about $5 worth of food. So it makes it a very powerful, it's one of these things, like people say to me, if it was a business, you would be the biggest charity in the world because people would be throwing money at you. But this is a different type of it's a different type of leverage. It's a mitzvah leverage. It's a way to stretch your charitable dollars. And so we need a lot of support. And if people, of course, we have on our website ways to donate online, ways to donate by wire, check, donor advised funds, crypto. You're in Northern California, aren't you?
No, I'm in Los Angeles.
Oh, Los Angeles. Fine, they do crypto there also, I'm sure. Stocks, bonds, cars, boats. No one's given us a boat yet. People have donated cars, but not a boat. Someone donated us a house in their will, which was pretty cool.
Yes.
And we sold, like, no one moved in there. We sold it,
Yeah,
and then the
right.
money. And we, of course, we have our own 501c3 in the United States. We have tax deductibility in Canada and the UK and in other countries. And so come and volunteer, support our work. If anyone needs to be in touch with me directly, with pleasure, my email is Joseph, JOSEPH at Leket, LEKET.org.
What about farmers? Before we finish, what if
Yeah.
farmers want to do something somewhere else?
You mean the farmers who are, in the oh God, what do they call the valley by you guys where they grow everything?
Yeah, it's
Not
the San Fernando Valley.
Yeah, right. The San Fernando Valley where they grow 20% of the food or something in the United States, or crazy
Don't ask
numbers.
me.
Really crazy stuff. No, because there's an article the other day in the New York Times about, are we going to have to make a pipe from the Great Lakes to California so we have food in the United States? Because that's how crazy things are with the water situation in California. Listen, farmers, skilled farmers who want to come to Israel, that's a different type of discussion. They should get in touch with us, and we will put them in touch with farmers here. Once, and they can come to a meeting of a mind. If a farmer says, hey, I want to come for a month and help this guy farm, it's a shame to have someone like that just picking in the fields when they can offer
Exactly.
so much more. So that's not something we typically do. But of course, if a farmer wants to come over and do more, and certainly during the war, we've had people who've been more skilled and have wanted to do more skilled type of work. And by the way, we've also had people, normally our volunteers who pick in the fields are not skilled, but when you come for days and weeks on end, your skill level increases. And often the farmers will say, okay, buddy, you've been here 2 weeks. So instead of just having you weed, now I'm going to have you do, higher level stuff. But I'm always amazed by the people who work day in, day out in the farms. It's such hard work. Most people after 2 hours, my back, my this, my knees. It's an amazing commitment, and it gives us more respect for the people who pick our food. And of course, they all deserve money. None of them get paid enough, like many of the more difficult professions in this planet. Thank you.
That's true. Okay, so farmers also think about what skills you might be able to share. And I'm going to let Joseph go so that he can work on getting his kids back to Israel. And I thank you. And I will share this. And as we say, the end of every Israel at War episode, bring them home.
Amen.